Hey everybody, fellow entrepreneur, back again. I make crappy videos every day, so subscribe so you can argue with me. And today, some news came out, news that probably most people aren't going to hear about, people are going to gloss over with all the corona stuff going on. But some news came out that the Trump administration was considering testing some nuclear weapons again. Cue all the Trump with the nuclear codes, Trump's finger on the button memes, and I don't know, fears that people had when he took office. But this is kind of interesting, I think. The United States didn't know this, but hadn't tested a nuclear bomb since 1992. So we've had a pretty good run. We've got a good streak going, but that might be in jeopardy. There is a kind of a unratified but widely followed nuclear test ban treaty, comprehensive nuclear test ban treaty that's been in effect for a while now. The United States has not signed or joined it, even though we still try to follow it. Basically, just trying to put a halt on nuclear testing, nuclear test ban treaty. I guess the problem is that according to the United States, according to Trump, I guess, or experts over here, is that China and Russia have supposedly been violating this treaty with some really small, like yield nuclear tests because of environmental concerns. Long time ago, countries started moving tests underground, which is probably a good idea. They were, especially after like World War II in the 50s, way in the 50s, man, they were nuclear bomb crazy. They were testing nukes for all sorts of things. Can we like build artificial lakes with nuclear bombs? Can we mine minerals with nuclear bombs? Can we just if there was a problem, literally, if every if every problem is a nail, and what? No, that's not the analogy, but whatever. If there was a problem, a nuclear bomb was the solution back then. But that leaves a lot of like radioactivity, and that can like pollute things like water supplies or the air. If you live downwind from one of these sites, so they move them underground, and it's a much safer and kind of harder to detect. But with all the seismic tools we have now that are very sensitive, you can still pick them out. So anyway, if the United States is saying that China and Russia are kind of violating this non-signed treaty, well, we don't belong to the treaty. I guess it's in their right. we didn't sign up to that treaty. We didn't really agree to it officially. So I don't know why we can be upset, but at the same time, it's kind of been the unofficial status quo. And if they are cheating, then I guess the rationale here is to show that we not so much can cheat, but we can be ready too, and we also can be advancing our nuclear technology. And this is kind of the drive now. The problem with nuclear bombs is they're too good. they're too destructive. You can't. It's a weapon that can never be used. Of course, World War II notwithstanding, just because the side effects are too horrible, and you instantly you escalate into end of the world type of situation, World War III. But if you could have a smaller yield nuclear bomb, I don't know why you would do that. Because you would still get all the radiation and just the psychological, and it again seems self-defeating. They're good for intimidation, but even a low yield bomb would not be a good thing to use in time of war. It would be the equivalent of like a very powerful dirty bomb, which is still like a very dangerous thing to use, just a very radioactive bomb. But it's Army, military, they like their nukes, and if this is a new technology, if the new arms race is a small arms race, get your funding and get your research going. That for the military, that could be all the justification they need. But again, I don't think these are really effective weapons to be used in times of war. But I'm not in the military nor a nuclear scientist, so I have no idea. But there's a problem with this. First of all, there's no really winners in doing this. I don't see how the United States testing a bomb is going to bring China and Russia back to the negotiating table. They're just probably going to accelerate their testing. And, we saw this in the Cold War. It was a game of one-upsmanship. And so maybe pretty quickly we'll be going back to, multiple kiloton bombs and stuff like that. So probably not a good way to go down this road. Secondly, Trump won't be president forever. And so if he leaves office and we kind of abandon this treaty and stuff like that, if the new administration wants to reestablish them, kind of we're coming from a position of weakness, right? Looking down the road we made some mistakes and we tested some bombs and we kind of broke the treaty too publicly. At least China and Russia are smart in doing it clandestinely, so they always have a little deniability. But I would imagine that if we're coming out and saying that we're detecting something, we wouldn't say this if there was no evidence. And again, be very wary of what the government says. Look at Iraq and their chemical nuclear weapon programs. I get it. But again, with all the sensors we have now, you should be able, even low yield, I would think, you should be able to detect that somehow, some way. So if there's some smoke here, I would assume there's some nuclear fire somewhere. But anyway, you get a new administration coming in and we want to rejoin all these treaties. Again, we're coming from a position of weakness because this is something that we kind of walked away from with Trump's bomb when he tested it. And now when we come crawling back, it's kind of like, other powers will kind of see, not that we're desperate, but, we left and, now we want to come back in the good graces of this treaty. It's just not a strong bargaining position. And so, we could get a less powerful, a less meaningful deal if this happens. And this seems to be Trump's MO. Whenever there's a treaty that people aren't following, being the United States, and we can pretty much do what we want, he just decides he's going to leave the treaty. He very much is into taking his ball and going home. Look at the Iran nuclear arms deal. They weren't really... It's a tough position to be in because they really didn't seem to be following the spirit of that treaty. They didn't really seem to be following the rules. So what do? Do we keep playing like a one-sided game and hold them to pretend that we are holding them to something that they're not? Or do we put them to task and leave this treaty and then, kind of put them in the corner now? Iran is getting nailed by sanction and Corona right now, by the way. But, people in Iran, the leaders there, this is a big deal. This treaty was kind of their way to, their economy's not very good. I'm rambling here. This is the rambling part of the video. Fast forward to 8:20 to get to the rambling point. But it really hurt. It really, really hurt Iran when we left them in that treaty. And so now they're in that position of weakness, and they're trying to, either get it fixed, wait Trump out. But, it kind of put the screws to them in that position. But again, say a new administration comes and wants to make amends. Oh, we are so sorry that we left this treaty, and now we want to come back. Well, again, you put all strength back in Iran, and now they have a position of power, and it's something the United States wants now and needs that Iran maybe, we were living without this treaty. We don't need it, right? Same thing with Russia and China. Well, we were doing just fine about this comprehensive test ban treaty. I mean, we were testing things anyways, and now you want to come back and come back to the negotiating table. Well, it's going to cost you, right? So, like I said, leaving all these things may seem tough, but again, if you ever want to come back to those negotiations, it kind of puts us again in a position I would think of weakness. And if you're China or Russia, they're probably going to do what they want to do anyways, and it's they're going to be testing these new types of weapons, and it's tough because do we play by they don't play by the same rules. So do we take the moral high ground but lose the nuclear low ground? Yeah, that makes sense. It's tough. It's it's world politics. This is a tough place to be. But I don't think that we would go and actually test a weapon. I wouldn't see that happening. The backlash that Trump would get here from people in the United States here would be pretty massive. But you can saber rattle and you can threaten, and that probably is what this is right here. And there's nothing wrong with doing that. But we will see how this goes. Relations between China and Russia are frosty already, and I hope this is not the beginning of a mini Cold War, no pun intended, with the mini nukes. But maybe history repeats, and maybe we go down this road again. It would be nice if everyone can just agree not to worry about these things and not to be testing them at all. But that obviously ain't going to happen. So what do you do next, right? Turn a blind eye, let them do their testing. Do you test as well and try and start a game of one-upsmanship? That does not end very well usually. Do you try and go back to the negotiating table and try and get a better treaty, even though Russia and China may not be following it? And granted, the United States, we've been known to not follow the rules of a treaty here or there too. I'm not saying that we're saints in all this. It's just tough. It's a very tough situation. So we will see what happens with these nuclear testings. Again, these are low yield weapons, kind of like the newest fad in nuclear technology. They're a little easier to use, even though I don't think that's advisable in any situation during a time of war, but that's the point. So anyway, thanks for watching. Thanks for hanging out for my rambling nuclear rant. And hey, I got things to do today. I know you do too. So I'll catch you later.